You might say it was a bit of a coincidence. It actually began when my sister, who was 6 years my junior, she and a friend of hers were driving to a community college not too far from where we lived in Elmira, New York. And on the way there, they were involved in a horrific accident. A consequence of that, my sister Susan ended up being pretty much of a hemiplegic from age 19 until the time she died when she was 48. She was comatose for the first 6 months and was receiving all kinds of therapies, physical therapy, speech therapy, etc. And it was the speech therapist that the work that she was doing with my sister to try to get her to utter normal speech patterns. In talking with her, it kind of prompted an interest in me because at that point I had already spent about 4 years in public education as a language arts teacher in the junior high school in Binghamton, New York area. And it wasn't going anywhere. I just wasn't suited to work with junior high kids in particular. Perhaps had I chosen a different level, say senior high, it might have been a whole different ballgame. But I saw an opportunity at age 28. If I'm going to make a change, I better do it soon, because at that point I had a wife and 2 young children. And were it not for my wife, Beverly, whose picture you see above me here to the left, who was the breadwinner during the time that I spent getting my master's degree in speech pathology, but also audiology. And it was the area of audiology that began to interest me more and more, and that's what took me to the next level beyond my master's degree, and that was to get a PhD at the University of Washington. So that's how it all started, because of the tragic accident that my sister Susan had, and that's how I ended up getting into audiology. That happened as a consequence of my opening a business practice in audiology in Puyallup, Washington. And while there, an ear, nose, and throat specialist, Dr. Henry Gronsky, happened to have his own separate business in the same business complex where I was. In fact, he was right next door. So we had this kind of this symbiotic relationship between the two of us, where he would have need for people's hearing being tested in order for him to go ahead and make full diagnosis about the problems that the people had with their hearing. So that relationship that I had with him, plus the fact that after 4 years and the accountant saying that, Frank, I think maybe this last year, which would have been 1978, I think maybe you made $9,000 this past year. I thought, whoa, this can't go on much longer. My wife had, supported me during that time. She was teaching, as she has for many, many years. And I thought there's got to be a better opportunity. Well, Dr. Gronsky, my dear friend who passed away about 7 or 8 years ago now, said, young man, you need to come with me to the Tri-Cities, Washington. I said, where's that? He said, it's on the other side of the mountains. It's probably about a 4-hour drive from here. But he said, I think you should give it a look-see. Well, how do I do that? Well, he said, well, I'm going to go back there and open a business. And I'd like you to come and take a look at the area. And if you like it, then maybe you'll consider coming over here. In particular, since you haven't done all that well in business in Puyallup, Washington. So that kind of made sense. So I would fly every week to the Tri-Cities from Seattle, spend the week here, and then fly back to be with my family in Puyallup area for the weekend. And then after doing that for several months, in September of '78, I encouraged my family, again, my wife and 2 young boys, who at that time were probably 11, 12, something somewhere around there. Just let's go over to the Tri-Cities and we'll take a look. Well, coming over here, The reaction was, this has to be the ugliest place on planet Earth. Because where's the greenery? They're so accustomed to being around greenery. Because we lived in the Seattle-Tacoma area for probably a total of 9 years or so and kind of gotten accustomed to that. But anyway, we decided we're going to give it a try. We got to give it a try because it isn't working over here. So we'll follow Henry Gronsky over to the Tri-Cities. And sure enough, it took the first winter when you opened the bedroom window and you looked out and you saw this orb in the sky called the sun, which we had not seen for all the years that we lived in the Seattle-Tacoma area. It was always rainy and dreary and overcast in the winter months. So it was very, very encouraging to know that there are places on Earth, including the Tri-Cities, where it can be very nice in the winter months. So that's how we ended up here. Challenging. Except for Dr. Gronsky, I knew no one else in the Tri-Cities. I had the good fortune of being housed for those months when I was traveling back and forth by a pharmacist and his wife, and they lived in Richland. I could kind of bunk up with them. And then when we came here, then we decided we're going to kind of plant our roots here and go ahead and take a stab and buy a home. So we bought a home back then. But as far as the business was concerned, the challenging part was getting to know as many potential sources of income for us, referral sources. And that meant, in my particular case, booking out times every week, multiple times if possible, going to different doctors' offices and saying, hi, I'm so-and-so, and this is what I do, and keep me in mind whenever you come across a patient who is in need of hearing evaluation and hearing treatment services. So that's how it began. It included not just those visits that you would say in the same category as pharmaceutical reps. Same idea, going and visiting with them. In fact, in some instances, maybe putting together luncheons for the staff at the doctor's office. Also went to, whenever possible, going to monthly hospital doctor meetings. I was allowed to go to those, in particular at Kennewick General Hospital. That's long before there was a Trios hospital. And there again had the opportunity to rub elbows with some of the local physicians. My focus was primarily on pediatricians and also with family practitioners. Those were the ones that I would focus on primarily because they would most likely be the persons that would encounter the clientele that I was looking for from my office. Oh, there's more than a few. Most recently, I'd say, there's a young boy from Prosser who I had seen when he was just a, I don't know, preteen, we'll say. And another one, a woman now, a young girl at the time that I saw, again, when she was a preteen, and I just happened to run into her at the ice cream social that Shannon put together here recently. And it was like deja vu all over again. It was kind of makes you feel sort of old, but all these years have gone by. I mean, you used to be a child and now you're this grown adult with children of your own. So yeah, I can't name names, but I can remember faces, yes. It's awe-inspiring, it's humbling. It's not something that I can take full credit for because I can't. I have to credit God for number one, for having directed me into this community by way of the doctor I met there. I have to credit my wife because she was so much a part of my schooling and also in the early stages of the business. In fact, even as the business progressed, she was working full-time as a junior high music teacher in Richland. But even during that time, she always managed to carve out time to be a mother. And then beyond that time, she would carve out time to be with me, to be a means of support, because I needed support for those people who watching this video and you've lived here for more than, say, 20 or 30 years, then you remember in 1980, which was 2 years after I opened the business here in the Tri-Cities, the end reactor shut down. And that, for newcomers, have no idea the impact that it had in this community. It was almost as bad as what they were saying in Seattle. Whoever's the last person leaving Seattle, turn off the lights. It was the same idea here in the Tri-Cities. There were homes that were being walked away from by people that couldn't pay the mortgages anymore. Banks were taking them over. It was bad. One would never have guessed in 1978, 1980, 1982, 85, it would ever be as thriving as it is today. To answer your question, yes, it's very, very humbling. It's very encouraging to me to have been part of this business. And I hope to live the day when it does celebrate its 50th anniversary. That would be phenomenal. I can tell you this much, that the people who have succeeded me, Dr. Neil, my son, and Dr. Shannon Marie, as well as Jennifer Wright, are skilled professionals who are very much up on whatever the latest technology is. But beyond that, they have the heart for what they're doing. People need to realize that fitting of a hearing aid, or even the diagnostic process of finding out whether people may have some sort of disease that should be tended to. But as far as the fitting of hearing instruments is concerned, it's more than just the device itself. We all know that you can get devices anywhere in our community. You can get them online, but there's that personal touch that you'll find at Columbia Basin Hearing Center that you will not find, in my estimation, at any other facility in the Tri-Cities that's involved in the same business.